Hi, I'm BJ, and this is the Arcane Alienist Podcast. Hey everybody, this will be a real detailed episode. I just had some calls lingering from Jason Connerly and Karl Rodriguez that I wanted to get to before they sat too long. I'll probably this weekend have a recap of 2 or 3 games I've played in to summarize. So look for that in the next few days. But for now, let's take some calls.
Hey BJ, Jason here. So I love your recaps. Keep doing them. Great. Yeah, as far as a rep PDF, I don't particularly want my name associated with DM's Guild, so I'll just be anonymous. But yeah, I'll definitely help you do that. You know, it's funny because all these 5e guys are talking about just recreating all this stuff that's already out there for 5e. You know, already out there for other games. Like Daniel said, you know, BX already has exploration down to a science. When you're talking about the Mad Max style thing, hell, your Shadow of the Demon Lord, he had a thing, I forget what it was called, but he did a Mad Max thing for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I'm surprised you don't have that. Yeah, there was something else you're talking about. Oh, well, talking about domain stuff, I mean, Adventure Conquer King system does it great, and got cut off there. And, you know, Lamentations of Flame Princess also has a pretty good basic domain management system, a little simpler than Adventure Conquer King system. I get people want stuff in 5e because that's the most popular thing, but, you know, luckily for the creators that want to do this stuff, they can just copy everything that's already out there, and they don't have to be very creative. So that's kind of mean, isn't it? It's not very fair to them. But, you know, all these products are already out there and probably cheaper than the 5e versions. So, folks, go check out other games. Love you. Bye. Hey, BJ, Jason here. I was a little angry, I think. Maybe not angry, a little grumpy, I guess is a better word, on that last call. Sorry about that. Well, I had negative feelings towards 5e for some reason, a game I've never really played. But, yeah, I guess I get frustrated when all these great products are out there and they're ignored, and then they're just repurposed into new products. But, you know what? Hey, more power to the people that make them and people that buy them, I guess. I just wish some of the older stuff got more love. Karl, yeah, you're right. He's the GMologist for a reason. He fixed reputation right there. So I think that takes care of that problem. And as far as the Mummy goes, I don't think it's a kid's movie, to be honest. I think the later movies with Karras are a kid's movie, you know, where the priest just controls the mummy. But I think that first movie, I'm coming up to a minute. I'll call you right back.
Anyhow, I think the earlier movies probably are more kids' movies. I think a lot of the themes in the 32 Mummy really are more adult themes, this idea of love. And, you know, you only see the mummy for, 35, 40 seconds at the beginning of the movie. Well, at least wrapped in bandages at the beginning of the movie. Spoilers. So I kind of think that's more, I think it takes more of an adult to really appreciate what they're doing with the mummy. The Mummy, I think, is a really underrated film and a movie, obviously, you can pull a lot from to run a game with, as you know they've done in Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, yeah, I think I would argue against the idea of it being a kid's movie compared to, you know, maybe some of these other ones. I don't know. Some of the later ones especially. But anyhow, great episode. Sorry for my little grumpy rant earlier. And take care. I'll talk to you in game with you soon.
Hey, Jason, I think you make some really good points. I'd have to do a side-by-side comparison. I think if any rule that is kind of not explicitly covered, you know, like the exploration, that's there in 5th edition. They just don't put it all together in a procedure the way they do in the combat chapter. So you have to go hunting for everything and kind of cobble it together as a GM to really get it out. And I think I would have appreciated if they made it laid it out the same way you like combat. Here's a process, you know. But for the things that aren't there, like as standard, like, or that they don't have an optional rule for, like, well, they do have an optional reputation rule, but it's kind of wonky. It's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. There may be other ways to do it that you can pull in from existing games that are simpler. So I think it is important to look at other games and go, you know what? Can I pull this mechanic into my game and use it. Will it work as is without me having to do, if it fits, just take the simpler rule. And you're right, don't reinvent the wheel. But, there's some creators out there who are kind of really enthusiastic about kind of the challenge of making 5th edition products for 5th edition. And I'm sure that, there were people doing that in 4th edition, even though it wasn't as well received. There are people who do it for Pathfinder. And when we get to 25th edition, there'll be people doing it for 25th edition. Yeah, I understand that giving the game some old love, and it's good to kind of look at those other products and see what they have to offer for ideas, or even just, you can sometimes if 2 games are fairly modular, you can take pieces of different ones and just use the rules from different ones to manage different aspects of the game. But with The Mummy, I wanted to be clear. I didn't think it was a children's movie. I think it's not a movie I would be remiss to let an older kid watch, because I think right at this point they wouldn't. The couple of scenes are a little bit. I wouldn't let any kid watch it. Any kid I'd let watch a PG-13 movie, I'd probably let watch The Mummy, the original one. But that doesn't mean it's a kids movie. I just think it's a movie kids can enjoy. But it was actually the New York Times reviewer in 1923 who said that most of The Mummy is a costume melodrama for children. That's the exact quote. He mentions there are really only 2 weird or terror scenes that are actually full of terror. It's the when the mummy first comes alive and the kind of drives the archaeologist, just kind of drives him mad. Oh, there's a spoiler. Sorry. And then when they're the flashback where they're wrapping him up in the bandages alive, and Karloff gives this really good expression that shows he's kind of he's got this wild-eyed look, and those can be those invoke a little bit of sense of horror or dread, but there's not a lot there's not a lot of jump scares, there's not a lot of body horror, there's not a lot of like we would think of today. So I don't think it's a kids movie. I was just kind of commenting on the it's not as violent or gory or as intense as contemporary horror movies, and that this one reviewer had even said at the time it's a costume melodrama for children. I think the themes, the plot, understanding what's going on, and some of the subtleties about what is going on between the characters, the 3 characters are the main characters, with a little love triangle that develops. That's certainly something that you need to be older to appreciate and understand and pick up on. I will agree. I know Joe Richter at Hindsightless had watched this movie recently as well, and I will agree with him that when you think about it, the leading man is kind of worthless. He really doesn't do much to help. I guess other than give Helen a reason to resist the Imhotep's attempts to expel her at certain points, but he's just kind of there to be the handsome hero, and he really doesn't do a whole heck of a lot other than run around and show and fail to protect her. So and it was really cool the way. I don't know. I think there's a lot of. I don't want to do any more spoilers for people who haven't seen the movie, because I think you got to watch the movie. It would be interesting to discuss how it resolves and the agency of all the characters involved in the resolution of the movie at the end. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad that you and Rob have kind of been talking about these movies, and I think I'm going to go through the classics on my list when I have time for the rest of the month of October. I got a really cool Frankenstein-based module I wish I could run if I could cobble together a one-shot. It shouldn't take too long, but it comes from Professor Dungeon Master at the Dungeon Craft YouTube channel. He started to publish some of his short modules through the Quest Givers, DM Scotty. And I got the Frankenstein one that he just put out, that's pretty cool. And the one we did with Karl in Dungeon Crawl Classics that had a mummy theme was also really probably appropriate for Halloween. So yeah, thanks for the calls. Don't worry about being grumpy. Happens to all of us. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, they did put a lot of those classic adventures in Tales from the Yawning Portal, right? So it has White Plume Mountain and Against the Giants revisited. for 5e. I think it actually has like Forge of Fury too, and the first one that people hated with the what was that first one called? I don't remember. The first 3.0 one as well. So that's actually a pretty good product. I have it, the physical copy. I don't know if I would invest on the Roll20. Maybe I'll spring that on my players. Hey, come to play with X level, and we're going to run this. I think Tomb of Horrors was in there too, if I'm not mistaken, and Tales from the Yawning Portal. That's a good product. Anyway, thanks for the recaps, BJ, and I will talk to you soon. Yeah, interesting, right? I wonder what people think about old game conversions to 5e, right? Goodman Games has that whole series, and I think they're now on the Temple of Elemental Evil is their latest one. It's like 2 books. It's pretty crazy. I guess the first book is the original, and the second book is the new 5e version, like a 2-book box set. But I bought all of them. I got the Castle Amber one. I really like the Isle of the Dread one. That's the first one I bought, and then I went back and got the Keep on the Borderlands. But it'd be fun to do that. And I mean, I think D&D is classic, and it's not that hard. I was running, what was it called? I was running in 5e in Karamikos in the known world, an old module, Night's Dark Terrors, that's what it's called, and it works. Yeah, Undermountain. I got a lot of use out of Undermountain, both the Ruins of Undermountain, Ruins of Undermountain 2, and all the various supplements that tackled that area. It was very cool. That was our go-to when I had a campaign, 2nd edition AD&D based in Waterdeep. It was a campaign that had actually started in 1st edition, and we even went through the Avatar War, which is very cool. Some very memorable events that happened there. One of these days I'll have to tell those war stories. But Undermountain was like hey, what do we want to do today? Do we want to go out and into the country in Waterdeep? No, let's go to Undermountain. So they'd go through they go to the Yawning Portal, pay the fee, and go down the hole and have stuff in Undermountain. We had some really cool stuff. They found the Spoiler City underneath there and did some adventures there too. It was very fun. I really liked Undermountain, and I would do it again in the Waterdeep campaign.
Hey, Carl. Tales from the Yawning Portal. That has... you can run these independently, or you could, if you with a little work, tweak them and weave them into a single campaign, probably. It's got the Sunless Citadel, the Forge of Fury, which were the first 2 modules released for 3rd edition. The classic Hidden Shrine of Tomoachin, I can't remember how you say that, which I think was an AD&D module. White Plume Mountain, which is one of the legendary Funhouse dungeons. Most of these come from Greyhawk as a default setting, even though the Yawning Portal is in Waterdeep. Dead in Thay, well, I guess Dead in Thay is a specific to Forgotten Realms, although you could adjust it to anywhere. Which was I think Dead in Thay was presented as a playtest for 5th edition, back when it was still D&D Next. And then you've got the classic Against the Giants and Tomb of Horrors here as well. So yeah, you've got a lot of things that were prior editions that are converted in Tales of the Yawning Portal 5th edition, which is kind of what they've also done with Ghosts of Saltmarsh. They've got the classic Saltmarsh AD&D series, plus some other shorter nautical-themed adventures that have been published elsewhere and republished there. The Temple of Elemental Evil, I have that conversion. I'm in the process of actually setting up my maps in Fantasy Grounds so that I can run it, hopefully, after the holidays. And you're right, it is 2 very, very large volume set. I think 734 pages between the 2 of them. Interestingly enough, Volume 1 contains the entire original one, including the redo of the Village of Hamlet. I think it's got the original Village of Hamlet in there as well. No, they just got the original. They don't have the original. They just have the version that came with the original publication. That's only the first 41 pages. I'm sorry. There's a 40-page introduction that has essays and commentary from different figures in the D&D world. And then on page 41, the Temple of Elemental, the T1 through 4 starts, and the 225 starts the conversion for 5th edition. But that is only, so the original material and kind of the introductory stuff is about the first, let me look here, I got my book. It's maybe about the first 60%, so just a little over half of the first book. And the 5th edition conversion takes up the remainder of the first book and the entirety of the second book, just because it's, the original is in there in the same font size and layout as the published module. Very tiny. What's that? Probably 8-10 point font Arial, and then the conversion is in Times New Roman and it's sort of a more of a modern, larger font with larger spacing between the paragraphs and more page, more white space to make it easier on the eye. So that's why part of the reason it's so much longer. And then, of course, the appendix are going to be longer because the stat blocks for the monsters that you need in here that don't appear in the monster manual are longer than AD&D stat blocks. So, it's pretty hefty 2-volume set. I have all of those. This is the 6th one they've done. They've done Into the Borderlands, which combines In Search of Adventure and Keep on the Borderlands, B1 and B2. Number 2 is The Isle of Dread. Number 3 is Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. And then 4 is The Lost City, and 5 is Castle Amber. So Barrier Peaks and Elemental Evil are the only ones from AD&D. The rest of them so far have been from basic and expert stuff. So if you want to, they got the original module, so if you want to run them BX style, you got what you need there. Or for these AD&D ones, the 2 that are AD&D, or you have a 5th edition conversion. And they do a pretty good job, I think, with the 5th edition conversions. Undermount, that would be a fun place to revisit at some point, either as a DM or as a player. So thanks for the call, Karl, and I'll talk to you later. And that's it. That's, I had a few calls from Jason and a few calls from Karl. That was Jason Connerly of the Nerds RPG Variety Cast and Karl Rodriguez of the GMologist Presents. Both also have podcasts here on Anchor. Be sure to check those out if you haven't already. And I appreciate the calls, guys. Appreciate everybody out there listening. And I'll be back later. And that's it for this episode of The Arcane Alienist. I want to thank Dave Bone for the cover art that I use for the episodes. Check out ironseer.com. And the music is Come and Get It by Scott Holmes Music. Thank you for listening. Give me a call sometime through the Anchor app or at the Anchor website. And I'll be back in the future with another episode.